Hi, everyone, and welcome to Fresh from the Studio. This is Women in Their Works program where we invite our artist members to share what they're working on now with you. Today, we are very honored and excited to talk to three of our artists who are participating in the Austin Studio Tour. Each artist will give us an overview of what they're working on and probably give us their stop numbers so you can go visit them in person. Today we have Soledad Fernandez-Whitechurch, Caroline Walker, and Anne Fleming presenting. And we'll start with Soledad.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is very excited. I apologize for my winter wear. I live in one of those houses where when it gets cold, your choices are either you're melting or you're freezing. So today I'm going for freezing. I prepared a little presentation for you all, and I really hope that it will work. So for that, I have to share my screen. I apologize. All right. Can you all see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, it looks like my computer will not let me share my screen. There we go. Okay, I apologize. All right, there we go. We are sharing. We're sharing screens.
Yes,
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Well, that would have been very disappointing if we could not share the screen with you. All right. So I'm Soledad Fernandez-Whitechurch. I make murals and I make fine art. And I have been an artist for my whole life, which has been very fun, also very frustrating at times, but it's really the language that I speak, and that is me. I think that picture sort of captures the joy and excitement and enjoyment that I get from making art. So I wanted to share that. I was born in Paraguay and I was raised there in Argentina and the United States. My mother is an artist. I grew up always around nature and around animals, saving little animals, collecting little bones and feathers and pieces of debris, always having it in my pocket. And I was very fortunate that my mother was a part of an art atelier, which was this beautiful space where artists would come together and they would work simultaneously. She let me skip school a lot. So my first nude drawing class was probably at 7 years old, which was great. My teachers were not that thrilled as I was. I have other artists in my family, even back to, that's a typo. That's 1890. There's an engraving of the US Congress, and it's from the 1890s in the Library of Congress. So that's very exciting. I'm always proud of that. This is some of my early art. I thought I'd share that. Ladies, if you ever want to show this at the gallery, just let me know. I am happy to bring them over. Bless my mother who had all of these professionally framed for me. A little bit of my art is very layered, so I thought it would be fun to share the process behind it, the inspiration. I work with layers a lot because as an immigrant, as somebody who has always been an outsider in a way, I've come to learn a lot from the history and the memory of geography, and that how that relates to not only a place and time, but also to humans. So I always like to think of geography as the geography of land, the geography of memory, the geography of skin in terms of our bodies and how our lives mark us. And those histories, I'm just fascinated with finding those histories in the natural world. So I wanted to make this page a little bit of sort of like my sketchbooks and my collections of odds and ends and soils and rocks and little bones that inform a lot of my artwork. Paraguay is a wonderfully, beautiful place known for its very red soil. And that color tends to inform a lot of my work. Later in life, when I moved to Buenos Aires, I grew up around the jacaranda trees, which are right here and have this incredible lilac color that seems to come out of nowhere. And it was the closest I've ever seen to magic, where you wake up one day and the flowers are out. And that really informed a lot of my relationship with color and what color can do for us and the way that it's imprinted in our memories and what it can mean. So color is a big way for me to shorthand meaning and to shorthand memory and to shorthand identity. I work with cyanotypes a lot. Here's a nifty little video where, again, we're talking about the color blue, which is very important to me. I grew up in Argentina, right by the River Plate, which is a mix of a river and an ocean. And as somebody who was always, I was Paraguayan in Argentina, I was South American in the United States, that contradiction always spoke to me. And I would always think, well, I am just like the river. I'm both, and I'm neither at the same time. And cyanotypes not only have that color that makes you think of water, but they, in a way, retain the memory of anything you put over them. So that's become very important in my practice. This is my studio. I don't know why there's music there, but there we go. My studio is an ever-evolving place of experimentation, identity, keeping memories, paraphernalia, all sorts of objects that give me a sense of time and place. And it is 100% crucial to my art. And I often invite collectors and I invite anyone to come to my studio because my art is so influenced by my space. It also homes homeless kittens at times. I foster kittens, so I thought I would put a little picture of Bat over there with some of my color studies right before he knocked them all off the table just for fun. And then, yeah, there's little antique statues I collect, endless color samples. A lot of times I create my own pigments. I've been leaning into that quite a bit, using different soils from different areas. This is from Arizona, and it's called pink pipestone. I'm waiting for some clay from Marfa to come, and I am trying to get some red dirt from Paraguay. So fingers crossed so that I can create some pigments with that. Some of my latest work, I'm actually really proud of. These two are from my series called Where the Light Gets In. And I work with a very particular color yellow. It's Hansa yellow. And within that pigment, I will typically decide on a pigment that I like and purchase it from a whole bunch of different brands until I find the exact color I want that behaves in the way I want it to behave. Because a lot of that exploration is, what does the color do? What happens when you add water to it? What happens when the light shines on it? How does it interact with the canvas? And these two are, I believe, are very joyful pieces. They are a little reminder that life can be good, that even when life doesn't feel great, we often look back upon it and find that everything happened for a reason and everything had a piece in the puzzle that becomes our lives and our identities. These are being displayed at the East Austin Studio Tour. They are 18 by 24, and like it says on the little blurb, hand-stretched canvas. They're mixed media pieces, so these as well have cyanotypes from letters that I picked up from the Library of Congress website. They're from the 19th century. Nothing in my practice is simple. Everything is layered, everything takes hours. I never make it easy for myself, but I really enjoy the result and the process. That page wasn't finished. Now, this piece is called Unravel to Rebel. It is unfortunately, it's not showing quite the detail, but it's a charcoal on paper. This is architectural rendering paper, and the back is mixed media, again, with some antique books transferred to it. And this one is a meditation on chaos and control and being able to walk that fine line where I allowed the medium to dictate where to go, what elements do we put in, let's have a little fun there, while having the restraint of being able to create a very realistic looking arm from the bark plates, which are some of the classical methods that art students use to learn how to represent the human form. And it's been used for hundreds of years. These two pieces are called A Great Deal of Fun and A Great Deal of Courage. Again, these are cyanotypes with gouache on top of them. I worked with different densities of cyanotype to create sort of this ghostly underwater scene that to me represents a lot of, again, memory, the multi-layering of how we create who we are, how we recall the important things that happened to us. There were 3 more pieces I wanted to show you. Unfortunately, they don't photograph well, so I would love everyone to come see them at the show. I've taken this idea of transparency and layering even further to work with glass on both sides. Again, I'm using cyanotype, I'm using different types of vellum paper, I'm using antique books and writing to convey these very complex stories that I'd love to get into more detail about. This is how you find me. I have a website, I have an email, I'm all up there with technology. Finally, it took me years, but I did it. I would love you to come. I'm showing this Sunday at the Austin Studio Tour, right across the street from Women and Their Work. You can't miss me. It's at Big Red Sun. And thank you everyone for supporting us. It's so important to have all of your support so that us women artists can have a platform like this.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Next up is Caroline Walker.
Here, can everyone see my screen or my
Yes.
slideshow? Yeah. Again, my name is Caroline Walker, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist. And my studio is at Canopy Austin, and that's 916 Springdale. And if you're not familiar with Canopy, I highly recommend it as a tour stop. I mean, you can see like 40 artist studios there, and there are a couple galleries and a couple shops. So it's well worth the trip. But so I also wanted to tell you, well, I wanted to show you some of the work you're going to see this weekend. And I also wanted to tell you a little bit about my evolution as an artist. I've actually only been doing this for 7 years. And I previously had a career as an interactive designer. So you'll see tech elements work their way into my artwork, even though I'm not in that career anymore. And you'll also see that I work with a wide range of mediums. So these are some of the first pieces that I showed. And these are digital photo composites. So I make the background out of photographs. Like I'll use several photographs to compose the landscape. Then I'll print them out and hand draw the ladders and the little details. So I call these dreamscapes or journeys. And then around 2016, I discovered augmented reality and I started adding that to my work because I thought that was the perfect way to combine my past digital artwork with my physical artwork. So on the left is what it looks like without augmented reality, and on the right is what it looks like when you look through the app. The image becomes activated. And then I started experimenting with sculpture and adding augmented reality to that. And right around that time, 2020 hit and everything went digital, everything went remote. There was a huge boom in digital art. And so I went more heavily digital with my art during that time. This is one of the first pieces I showed. This is at Georgetown Art Center. And the inspiration for this piece is I was thinking about how our connections had gotten so complicated, how it was actually dangerous to reach out to people. So these are hearts going out digitally to everybody who was isolating at that time. And that inspired a public art project where members of the public sent me messages that they wanted to go out into the universe digitally. And these are messages about something they were grateful for that was helping them through the pandemic. And this is one of the, there were, these were in 6 locations around Austin, and here's one of them.
More
it has
time
audio.
with our canines.
Every week I look forward to pizza and a movie on Fridays.
More hiking.
I can enjoy time with my boys and my husband.
More time with my grandson.
So, and then another actually purely digital piece that I did was right before the 2020 election. I activated this sign. I call it the In This House sign. These popped up all over Austin and people's yards between 2016 and 2020. And the activation of this sign was meant to celebrate some of the people who stood up for the principles on this sign. So this is a little bit of what it looks like. It also has
children's future. We are all mortal Americans.
Dr. Ford, I want to begin by thanking you for coming to testify in front of us.
And actually that app is still in the App Store, so anyone can download it and find one of those signs and get the full experience. But then after doing a couple of heavily digital pieces that addressed current issues, I gravitated back to my dream world, my dreamscapes, and here are a couple recent dreamscapes that I did that are built. These are the landscapes, again, are built out of several photographs. And then I wanted to make a sculptural dreamscape. So I made the one on the left out of balsa wood. It's sort of a maquette for, well, the one on the right is a bigger one, more simplified, but it's 5 feet tall, made of sheet metal, and that's currently on display at City Hall. But then I came across this word, canopsia, and that's a feeling that you get when you're in an abandoned place that was once bustling. And this word just resonated with me so much because I incorporate that feeling into a lot of my artwork. So this piece is actually called Canopsia, and this is an 8-foot tall sheet metal sculpture that's currently installed in Cedar Park. And it has a live tree growing out of the roof rafters. And the tree is called a possum haw. That's a native Texas tree that has red berries. And I picked it because it can survive in a wide range of soil conditions. So I'll be interested to see the transformation in the tree over the year that it's installed there. And actually the idea for the addition of the tree came from an urban legend that I came across that it was about a man who died in a cave during the Greek and Turkish Cypriot Wars of the 1970s. The legend says that his body was not found until a fig tree grew out of the contents of his stomach. So symbolic of the circle of life. And here is another dreamscape that gives you the feeling of canopsia. Lemon Drop Dreams 174. And that's Lemon Drop Dreams 227. And Lemon Drop Dreams 43. You may have noticed that all of these have a similar composition and similar details. And the reason for that is I use a process to create these where I'll create several backgrounds, several different mountains, several different ladder configurations, several different trees, and several different details. And then I'll run a script on them, and it'll make every possible combination of all the different images. And I actually ended up with like 10,000 of these. So I took the best ones and I made limited edition prints. So for most of these, there's one at 20 by 20 and 3 small prints at 8 by 8. And then I minted 100 of them as NFTs. Because this is actually a process that's used in NFT making that I just kind of borrowed from that world. But so these are all on view in my studio, along with several of the other artworks that you've seen in this presentation today. So I hope to see you this weekend. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Caroline. And next up, we have Anne Fleming.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I need to let you know my dog is here with me. And so if you hear her barking, just ignore her. Thanks, everybody. My name's Anne Flemings. I'm an abstract, contemporary abstract painter. You can see some of the work I have behind me. And I'm really excited to be part of this program. Thank you so much to Women in Their Work for all that they do to promote female artists, especially across Texas. We're grateful for you, and everybody should have you on their donation list. So I have a BFA in graphic design, also an MA in sociology. And about 7 years ago, I brought painting back into my life. Prior to that, it was just sidetracked with professional life, family life, and all of that. I was a full-time fundraising professional, and I still do that work part-time in order to pay for all of this. It's been a great journey, and I really enjoy being an artist, and I love the flexibility and the creativity that the space provides. You can learn more about me, and I'm going to share my screen. And Caroline gave me a trick to do here. Let's hope that this trick works. Did it work? Thank you. Thank you, Caroline. So you can learn more about me at flemingsart.com. I create vibrant originals, archival prints, and do unique commissions. Although, you know, commissions are not my favorite thing, but you gotta do what you can sell some days. I also, you can stop by my studio any first Saturday of the month. I also studio at Canopy where Caroline is, only I'm up on the second floor. And during the first Saturday of every month, about 20 or so artists open their studios to share their newest work, talk art, all for an afternoon between 1 and 4. So it's kind of like a mini Austin studio tour, only it's every month. I also have work at Artworks Gallery on West 6th and at Envy Interiors in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And of course, I'm on the Austin studio tour, and you can come visit with me this weekend in the Canopy Complex. I'm up on the 2nd floor, number 361, right above Caroline, so you can see both of us. And I have to tell you, this is the best time of year for artists in Austin because of the Austin Studio Tour. It's just really a great time to get out there, visit with artists. We have everything ready for you. In fact, this is what my studio has been looking like the past few weeks. It's clean, the floors are neat, but you know what? Most of the time it really looks like this. And this is how I like it, frankly. This is where the magic happens. This is when the creativity gets a little juicy. And the back wall, you can kind of see this back wall is usually where I hang my paintings, my canvases. I use very simple materials, acrylic paint, brushes, charcoal, pencil. I move paint around on that canvas. Sometimes I use board, but usually it's canvas. And I usually work in medium to large size imagery. That's my preferred size. It's actually limited by the size of canvas that can fit in the back of my minivan. So right now that's a 3x4 size canvas. But I thought, you know, I'd share with you a little bit about my inspiration for my work, and it usually comes from memories. And here is a really good example of what that means for me. During the pandemic, we drove to Maine, across country, spent some time on the coast with some rocky beaches with some family. And it was just a wonderful trip. We were reminded of how special it was to be able to be out and about and to be with family safely. This was during the height of it, though. You know, we didn't have tests then. We were all just very careful. And so it was a very special time, and holding these rocks in my hands was just a very grounding, very comforting feeling. And I brought a lot of these rocks back. They now sit in my studio, in my window, and serve as inspiration. And what I found was, and this was totally unbeckoned and not thought about consciously, but the images started showing up in my work, these rock-like orbs. And this has been about 2-3 years now, and those images keep showing up, and I keep making them, and they've become part of my repertoire. And I love them now. I love them so much that my sister-in-law and her daughters collected a 50-pound box of rocks off the beach and mailed them to me, and it cost about $300 to get them down here. So I just love these rocks. But you know, sometimes it's hard to get the creative energy flowing, to continue having the energy flowing. And so I wanted to share some strategies that I do in order to keep that juice moving. And so here's what I do to keep things fresh in my studio. I work usually in a series. This can be kind of fun because it allows you to kind of maximize what you're trying to say. And I usually just put 5 or 6 big canvases on the wall. I'll start out in smaller canvases that I'll do sketches on, do some compositions, work with the colors, see what I like, and then translate it up onto these bigger spaces. I've been doing this type of series work for a few years now, and I never start out with a conscious intention. I know a lot of people that start out with a conscious intention when they're working in series. For me, it's more of a visual intention. But I think the next time I'm going to try with a more conscious, more intellectual intention and see what happens. Another strategy I've used that's been successful is keep it simple, stupid. And that's a marketing term, the KISS effect. And for me, it's about constraints. So I gave myself 10 canvases, 3 colors, and 2 hours on each canvas. And I had at it. And what this did for me is that it forced me to make decisions very, very quickly. It didn't allow me to ruminate on what needed to happen within that canvas space. I just did it. And for me, that's very refreshing to not think things through a lot. I can get a little too thoughtful sometimes and I need to take a break. And so I find doing something with constraints like this to be very, very refreshing. Another thing that I've tried is doing what I call palette cleansers. And for me, this also showed up during the pandemic. I started painting lilies and florals, and I don't know where that came from. And it's wildly different from my current abstract portfolio. But it's so refreshing to do it. And I find great joy when I paint these because it's totally with abandon. I don't think too much. I might use some photographs as reference, but I just have some real joy in just getting out onto the canvas, producing something of beauty and not thinking too hard about it. Another thing that I'll try is also doing a live drawing class and getting in front of a live model and kind of training and retraining and practicing my eye and just using a pencil and charcoal. I find that to be a very refreshing palette cleanser. But the biggest thing probably for me across my practice is to show up. And I was given some good advice nigh on 10 years ago from Jennifer Chenoweth, if you know her. She said, Anne, most of the success is just showing up, getting into the studio, whether you're framing or whether you're preparing a canvas or you're actually painting. And I've used that advice and it's been very, very helpful for me. I find it very comforting to have a schedule and to know that I have protected time in the studio. And it was kind of funny. I was picking out these, I didn't know how to illustrate this. And I was picking out these pictures and I noticed, you guys, I wear the same thing every time I'm painting. So I bring out my little Vitamix apron, I put on one of my dirty t-shirts and I have at it. And for me, that keeps me in the zone, you know? So I also light candles, listen to good music, and try and create a safe space to create. And I find that very helpful. So thanks for listening today. I'll tell you, I'm pretty impressed with the women that I'm here with today. They're very complicated, complex artists, and I feel like a minimalist sitting next to them. So thank you for letting me be sandwiched in between. You can learn more about me at Flemings Art. Follow me on Instagram or Open Canopy the first of the month. And of course, this weekend, which we're all looking forward to, is getting back out there and meeting our public. It's always a great time to be on the Austin studio tour. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for presenting today. These are very interesting conversations. I was particularly interested in Anne talking about different strategies that she uses to kind of keep it fresh. And I was curious if either of the other artists have these processes that they go through.
Well, I think I do a little too much of keeping it fresh. I mean, I am the type of, I get really bored doing the same thing over and over again. And like, I want to try a different medium. I want to try a different, I don't know, new technology, or I jump around a little bit more, but I do keep it fresh. I really like, your talk was really inspiring to me, and I really appreciate some of those techniques that you shared.
Thanks. I find, you know, if we're to be honest, art people, you know, you run into blocks a lot. I don't know. I mean, and I'll tell you, November actually is an interesting block because I can't get into the studio like I usually can because it's all spiffed up. So, you know, and when my son was younger, during the summer, I would have these large chunks of time where I had to be out of the studio. So I don't know, it kind of forced me to figure out other ways to keep the creative juices going. And yeah, you know, I mean, it's really critical. And I don't think artists talk enough about that. You know, it's kind of like part of the process to run into a block or to have a more stagnant period that you find you might have to recharge from. I just find, and I found as I've gotten more comfortable with it. It was very uncomfortable in the beginning. That I know that I'm going to eventually come out of it, and that I'll be a stronger, better artist because of it. So some of these strategies kind of help just keep things going for me.
I resonate with the protecting the studio time a lot. I've gone a little further from that. In the last year, what I've done is I've scheduled myself, like I'm in school, blocks of 2.5 hours where I create, and then smaller blocks where I call it, I hang out with my demons. So as an AP art student growing up in Connecticut, there was a huge difference between everyone in the class who, you know, I found out you need to hire a photographer to take slides of your work, and you need all of these expensive things that I couldn't afford. I couldn't afford a lot of the materials that we were asked to use. So there was this little voice in my head that always said, well, you are going to take your photos with a disposable Kodak, so your art needs to be better, so that the person looking at it at the School of Fine Arts can tell that it's not just that, it's not that the art is bad, it's the camera is bad. And that little perfection voice didn't go away. And so what I've learned to say is once a week, I have 1 hour, or aside from my joyful practice where I have really found myself and I tell my stories, I say, all right, let's sit down. What do you want to make perfect? We will do it 1 hour. And then I have another hour, that's the play hour, sort of the two sides of the coin, where I don't work on paintings that will be sold or are part of a commission. I just play. And this is where I end up getting into this kind of trouble, because I end up saying, well, then we will make cyanotypes and I will make my own pigment and we will find the perfect yellow. But I believe that all of these three aspects honor what ends up making my practice and my work. So protect your time.
Yeah, for sure. How often are you in the studio, Soledad?
I am in the studio as formally 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do most of my admin work, but then I will come into the studio on a more loose basis. But Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, full time, usually from 8 a.m. until midnight when I go to sleep.
Wow.
I'm in there.
I try to do at least 4 solid days a week, you know. Yeah. What about you, Caroline? I don't know. Do you have to be in a studio? You're so techie.
Yeah. What's your studio like?
I mean, yeah, I can work on, you know, my art on my computer in a coffee shop, but I also, I go into the metal shop twice a week.
Right.
And I also am a member at a makerspace if I want to do the wood sculptures. So yeah, maybe once a week for that also.
Where do you do your metal work?
There are 2 places. There's a makerspace called Assembly, and then I also have access to the studio, the metal shop at ACC.
Oh, great.
So I love that in a way your work exists. You have 3 art studios. You have your technology virtual plane, you have your physical studio, and then you have your metal making space where it all comes together. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, that's awesome. Thanks.
I think I can build off of that. I would love to hear y'all talk more about, I think it's so interesting how each one of your personal lives and your personal interests influence your practice. So like, and your marketing, you're using that as an example. Your tech background, Caroline, if y'all want to talk more about that, I would love to hear it.
Oh, well, I mean, I had a long career in advertising, but then I just realized, you know, this is not contributing to society in any meaningful way. In fact, you know, I was pushing unnecessary pharmaceuticals. I was pushing financial products. Like, I remember I did an ad for a HELOC right before the real estate crash in 2008. And I'm just like, you know, I'm not helping here. And I just wanted to do something more meaningful and more fulfilling. So I left that career too. And I moved to Austin, and I pursued my own art practice.
I love that. I didn't know that about you, and that you worked in fundraising. I did too for
Oh,
about
yeah.
10 years. I studied psychology, and then I moved into the nonprofit world. And it was a really wonderful space for me to be in, because moving to another country at 18 is such an upheaval of your life. And one of the things you need to figure out is who you are. You are in a new country. What do you want to do? And the idea that was very clear is it's not about who you are, but it's more about what you bring to the world. So I may not have been the strongest English speaker in the beginning, but I wanted to be known for how I could help, how I could lighten the load for others. So moving into fundraising was really natural. And then moving into my art practice full time was still in the same vein. And I love that I had that experience in fundraising and that work in psychology, because I do love commissions. I love learning what makes somebody's history, what makes them special, what it is that lives in their mind, and how I can best translate that using my language. And those two backgrounds come in really handy for that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to describe commissions. I don't think I've had as strong an experience with commissions as you have. Which, yeah, they've been a little less exploratory for me and a little more directive. And I find that difficult when someone comes to me and says, this and this and this. And I found that I now say, I can't do that for you. If we're going to work together, you have to trust that I'm going to create something that you're going to love and that it's going to work. And that's the way it is. So, but that psychology piece, that I sociology, psychology, resonating, empathizing with people, I use that in every aspect of my life, from the art side to the fundraising side to the kind of coordinating open canopy, Caroline. I mean, there's a lot of those elements that just really serve me well to be a better human being, and it's kind of nice how we've all kind of, and as you both were talking about how, contributing and giving back. I mean, that's what being part of the nonprofit community, I feel like I can at least give back a little bit in some tangible way, because there's people that are a lot worse off than I am. And it makes me feel good that I can at least contribute something to help make the world a better place for people. And I think we do that with our art too. I think people, we bring joy and thoughtfulness and peace and just get people thinking, gosh, Caroline, when those little hearts were going out, I remember how we couldn't talk to each other. We were afraid to breathe each other's air, and it was like, geez, I needed those hearts then more than ever,
Oh, yeah. The ironic thing is that was a show at the Georgetown Art Center, and nobody came to see it.
They were afraid. Oh,
Yeah.
my God. Oh my gosh, that's kind of hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, well, it was beautiful,
Oh,
yeah, yeah, powerful stuff. Any other questions from anybody? Well, I hope everybody gets out this weekend. We are all, I can speak for all three of us, I think, very excited to have 2 more days of this, 3-week odyssey. How did you all do last weekend? Did you have good crowds come through? Yeah. It was good. It was good. It was steady state here at Canopy, which was so nice because you could still talk to everybody. It wasn't like pre-pandemic when it used to be crazy to the point you couldn't even speak to somebody because it was so crowded. So I really appreciated how nice it was last weekend. Could get to visit with people and be a good host in your studio, you know. That was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really a great crowd.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Women in Their Work is also open during the Austin studio tour. Our current exhibition is by Janelle Esparza. It can only be lived. Will be open Saturday and Sunday, 12 to 6. Thank you, Soledad, Caroline, and Anne. It truly was a pleasure. Thanks so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.